Hello students, today's topic is going to be about ecological adaptations, wherein we are going to see about how the animals are going to get adapted to itself and along with its surroundings. That is, how they are going to adapt with each and every different conditions that they are going to be living in. So, if you can see on the slide, we are going to talk about how the animal is going to adapt itself in the desert. You can see even something like a flower over there, but that is not a flower over there, it is a praying mantis which is going to look like a flower. It is going to adapt itself or mimic like a flower so that it can hold on to its prey. And of course, the polar bear, how they are going to survive in these Arctic regions, and the frog over there, you can see how it is surrounding, it has adapted itself or mimicking its surrounding over there, and of course, the desert poisonous snake, how they are going to eat catch the prey and eat. So, what is adaptation and what is this theory all about? Adaptation theory is also referred to as a theory of survival of the fittest, which is an organism's ability to adapt to an environment and adjust with time. The scientist who came up with this theory is Charles Darwin, who has conducted experiments in Galapagos Island in the 1830s, where he was talking about the finches. But before Darwin, there were many other scientists such as Empedocles, Aristotle, William Paley, Lamarck and Buffon, who accepted the fact that the species change with time, but did not understand the underlying cause for this change, or that adaptation was a continuous process which does not have a final form. Adaptation theory suggested that with habitat change, there are three other changes that take place, that is habitat tracking, genetic change and extinction. What is this all about? Habitat tracking. When an organism which used to live in the environment finds another environment which is similar to the previous one to which it has inhabited before, is called as habitat tracking. And what is extinction? When a species are not able to adapt to the new environment or move out and find a new environment to live in, they eventually die out and become extinct. And a genetic change is a natural selection that allows the organism with slight mutations to survive better in an environment when compared to other organisms in a given area. Now, the example you can talk about is turtles living in two islands, where Darwin observed that the turtles in one island ate from the lower ground, due to which they had a short leg and straight shell. When these turtles migrated to another island where the food resources were at a height, turtles with longer legs were able to eat and survive and reproduce. So, with time, their neck also grew longer and their shells became round, and these adaptations were passed on to generation for the turtles living on that island. So, what are all these adaptations all about? It's an inherited characteristics that helps an organism to survive long enough to live, reproduce more successfully in its changing environment, and can either be structural or behavioral. So, what causes adaptations? It could occur due to the mutations or natural selection. So, we are going to talk about mutations or natural selections over here. What is mutation? It is a sudden genetic change which could be accidental or random. Certain mutations are harmful, while certain mutations could be advantageous to the survival of an organism in the struggle for the existence. Remember, these are the mutations that allows some new changes that occur which will help in the progress of any living organisms. The example, a bird born with a long neck, or you can also talk about the giraffe with a long neck, which was able to help them to capture the food that was at a higher states, and they were able to breed and live on for generations to come. What is natural selection? It is a process in which individuals with survival advantage will survive in an environment, and those with less advantageous trait will die due to pressure from the environment. Hence, in an area where the resources are fixed or limited, there is competition among the species of that area to fight for the available resources. In a population, some individuals have the trait which could be structural or behavioral that can make them better at surviving and reproducing. Further, in the struggle for the existence, some individuals show variable variations that have a reproductive advantage and produce more offspring than the other species. Offspring with inherited characteristics that allow them to best compete with survive and will have more offspring than those individuals with variations that are less able to compete. The example over here you can talk about is different species of finches existed on Galapagos Island. The variation among them was in their beak characteristics. The nature selected the best suitable beak against the less useful one. Now, if you can see in this picture over there, you have different types of beak on these finches, where the Darwin has really taken good care, and he had also talked about all these finches over here. Now, when you are talking about this insectivorous finches, you can see the beaks over there, they are little bit pointed and sharp at the edge, which helps in holding the prey and tearing them so that they can eat easily. We are talking about the seed eating finches over there. The seed eating finches, here you can find the beaks are thick and solid, so that they can break open the seed and eat whatever is inside. We are talking about the cactus finches over there. You can see their beaks are little bit long and pointed, so that they can poke into the cactus and then they can take out the flesh and eat them. And of course, the buds and the fruit eating birds, again you can see how the beaks are thick and stout. So, they are able to break open and eat whatever is present inside the seed coverings. Different types of adaptation. So, that was about a bit about adaptations. Now, we will talk about what are the different types of adaptations that are found in the surroundings. Now, first we will talk about structural adaptations. Among the different types of adaptation, structure, that is the phenotypically what you are going to check out outside or which is visible is what you are going to talk about in structural adaptations. Structural adaptations are the changes to the structure of a living organism or coloration to adapt better to an environment. These structural modifications affect an animal at many different levels, and such changes are highly visible. So, for example, the desert plants where the succulents have adapted to the desert condition by the storing water within themselves to compensate for the lower water availability. That is, you must have seen the succulents, the leaves had changed into thorns and the stem have become succulent, so that it can be able to store whatever the amount of water is present, and they have very few stomata, so that excess of water is not lost and they are able to store the water. When talking about animals, you have different types of structural adaptations. What are they? They can be camouflage, they can be mimicry, they can be bent hind legs, sharp teeth, claws, and body structures are best examples. So, if you can see in this structural adaptation, camouflage. What is camouflage? It is a cryptic coloration, that is they can change their or they can adapt to the surroundings, whatever the color they are in the surroundings, they can mimic that color is called camouflage, or they can just be overshadowed within its surroundings. So, this is a type of a defense mechanism or a tactic that organism uses to disguise their appearance, usually to blend in with their surroundings. So, organisms use camouflage to mask their location, identity and movement. Now, if you can see in this picture, you can see something like a bark over there, but if you at a closer look, you can find there is an owl over there, the screech, eastern screech owl over there. The feathers on the eastern screech owl almost perfectly matches the bark on the trees and which sits on it. So, that is called as camouflage. Now, if you can see over there in the next picture, you have a stick over there and you can find some smaller sticks over there, but this is not a stick, it is a walking stick insect which camouflages itself within the surrounding, thinking that the prey can think that it is just a stick. And in the next picture, if you can see, you can find a walking leaf insect over there, which resemble exactly like a leaf, but this is an insect which camouflages itself within its surroundings so that the prey cannot find them. So, these are all a type of defense mechanism or avoiding the prey to be caught. When you are talking about the Arctic fox, for example, it has a white coat in the winter and a brown coat in the summer. That is, that the white coat, they can blend within its environment so that it can camouflage itself and easily prey on any small animals. The thick fur on them insulates them from the snow and ice and also provides for a grip on the slippery surfaces. They can survive almost minus 50 degrees centigrade. Another example over here you can find is the American bullfrog, which are green and brown in color, which can also camouflage itself within its surroundings. Of course, the tiger over there you can see they can camouflage within the bushes behind, so that the small prey cannot be able to see the danger coming towards them. And you can see over here the spider tailed horned viper over here. So, this is a snake which is properly camouflaged within the surrounding. The end of the tail is almost resembling like that of a spider, and it keeps on moving in such a way that the bird thinks that it is just a spider moving, and then when they come to eat them, the snake easily captures the birds. And of course, you have this Malayan horned frog over there. You can see very clearly this is a frog, but in the surrounding it is very difficult to find where this frog is. So, that is how they are going to protect themselves. Now, coming to mimicry. In biology, mimicry is a phenomena marked by the superficial likeliness of two or more species. That is, if one species is going to mimic another species, that is called as mimicry. It can be defined as to mimic another animal or its surrounding to benefit from adopting that particular look. So, here for example, when you look at these two butterflies over here, you have one monarch butterfly and a viceroy butterfly. The viceroy butterfly is a palatable species, that is, they can be eaten by any birds. Now, what they do is they take or mimic the viceroy the monarch butterfly. Why? Because the monarch butterfly is not good to taste. So, most of the birds do not try to prey on them because it is unpalatable. So, what this viceroy butterfly does is they mimic the monarch butterfly so that they can stay away, because some birds who have tasted monarch, they do not like the taste. So, they avoid even the viceroy butterfly. So, that is one way of mimicking. Now, depending on the purpose of the mimicry, it can be two types, that is protective and aggressive type of mimicry. Now, we will talk about this aggressive type of mimicry. So, this aggressive type of mimicry is used by the predators. Here, a predator mimics an organism favored by its prey so as to trap the latter. It is a form of a mimicry in which predators, parasites share similar signals using a harmless model, allowing them to avoid being correctly identified by the prey or host. Zoologists have repeatedly compared this strategy to wolf in a sheep's clothing, because they are going to cover themselves. The ant mimicking spiders, so you can see over there, this is an ant mimicking spider of the genus Myrmaraceae, is a part of a group known as jumping spiders. These spiders specialize in feeding on specific species of insects. So, what they do is they wave their pair of legs as antenna like that of an ant, so that they look like an ant, and they go unnoticed as they ambush lone ants, drag them away to be eaten. So, in the males, the mouth parts are enlarged. So, you can see the mouth parts are enlarged over there to resemble the head of an ant, and the false head splits open to reveal a pair of needle fangs used to pierce the prey and deter rival spiders. Now, protective mimicry. Now, protective mimicry you can talk about in two types, that is the Batesian mimicry and the Mullerian mimicry. Now, what is a protective mimicry? It is a protective simulation by a harmless species in a form, appearance, color and behavior of another species that is unpalatable or dangerous. So, it is completely an opposite of aggressive mimicry. In aggressive mimicry, we saw that the aggressive type of an animal is going to mimic a soft animal, but in a protective mimicry, the soft ones are going to mimic a dangerous type. So, that is the difference over here. So, for example, a harmless fly may mimic bees or wasps that are well known dangerous insects, thus deriving protection. Now, this is called as Batesian mimicry. So, in the Batesian mimicry is a form of mimicry where a harmless animal mimics a warning system, such as conspicuous coloration of a dangerous animal, in order to avoid the predators. The mimics again protection because predators mistake them for dangerous animals. Henry Walter Bates was the first scientist to discover this form of mimicry. If two species have same warning coloration and mutually advertise their dangerous or unpalatability so as to make predators learn to avoid both of them, then this is called as Mullerian mimicry. It is a form of mimicry where two unrelated dangerous animals develop similar appearance as a shared protective device. Now, we can easily understand what exactly is this Batesian mimicry and a Mullerian mimicry. Now, if you can see in this picture over there, you have three types of insects over here. One, you have a hover fly, which is a harmless fly. You have a wasp over here, which is a stinging wasp, that is dangerous one, and also you have a bee, which is also going to sting. So, you have two harmful insects and one harmless insect. So, the harmless one is a hover fly, which is going to mimic like that of a harmful fly over there. So, this is called a Batesian mimicry, where the when the other birds are able to or try to eat this wasp, they are going to be stung. They fear even a hover fly, so they avoid even a hover fly. But in a Mullerian mimicry, you have both these two, both are dangerous one and both of them mimic each other, so that both are being safe. So, no bird is going to touch a bee or a wasp, thereby sharing the same type of color. So, that is called a Mullerian mimicry. So, that is the difference between Batesian mimicry and a Mullerian mimicry. Now, another example for this Batesian mimicry is the scarlet king snake, which is harmless, and a coral snake, which is very dangerous one. So, the scarlet snake mimics the coral snakes, thereby the predators avoiding the scarlet king. We are talking about the owl butterfly over there. When the owl butterfly are being when the predator tries to eat them or catch them, they open up their wings to show this large eyes over there, where the predators fear and run away. Why? Because the eyes resemble like that of an owl's eye. So, you can see very clearly how the owl's eye and a butterfly's eye look alike. So, this is one way of mimicking. So, that is a Batesian mimicry. Now, again over here, if you can see, this is a spice bush swallowtail caterpillar over there. As they grow, they even grow their eyes, the large eyes over there, which resembles like that of a green snake over there, thereby escaping from the predators. Now, coming to Mullerian mimicry over here, we are talking about the Mullerian mimicry, where the viceroy butterfly mimics a monarch butterfly, the unpalatable one, thereby avoiding the predators. Now, we are talking about another example of your Saint Jacob butterfly. So, this is the shape of how a Jacob butterfly looks like. The caterpillar resembles like that of a wasp over there, where the stinging wasp is present. Also, the color over there resembles like that of a wasp, thereby protecting itself from the predators. Then the same way, you have three types of beetles over here. The unpalatable soldier beetle mimics the distasteful licet beetles, and when flying wasp also occurs over here. So, you can see how they have that same color on top over there, and the color of the body which resembles like that of a flying wasp. This is again the example for a Mullerian mimicry. Another type of mimicry is Peckhamian mimicry over here. The resemblance of a predator's messages is read as a harmless message by their prey. What it is exactly? The anglerfish over here, if you can see this anglerfish, these are dangerous fishes over here, but they have something like an antenna with a light over there. Now, this light tries to attract the prey near this light over there, and when the harmless prey thinks that it is some sort of a food over there, when they come near it, they are being eaten away by this anglerfish. So, that is a Peckhamian mimicry. Now, you can see over here the alligator snapping turtle over there. This is alligator snapping turtle over there. If you can see in the mouth, they have the tongue resembles like that of a worm over there. The turtle stands straight, still, without movement, but only the tongue moves here and there, attracting the prey. And once the prey comes near it, thinking that it's a worm, the alligator is going to snap them and eat them away. Another example you can see over here is an orchid spider, which mimics like a bird dropping over there. Once a moth or any insect comes nearby, the spider is going to spring into action and eat them away. Aposematic coloration. Animals with their bright color signals that are aren't worth tracking. For example, they may have chemicals in their body that make them taste bad, or that could be fatally poisonous. Alternatively, they could be aggressive and tough, letting predators know that they put up a fight. So here aposematic coloration is the color itself is a dangerous signal for the predators to avoid them and run away from them. In the same way, you can see over here the beetles over there, they resemble like a scorpion over there, signaling them not to come near them. Wasmannian mimicry. What is this? This occurs when the mimicry resembles its host in order to live within the same nest or structure. So these are the two beetles which resembles like that of an ant. They mimic like an ant and they go and take shelter provided by the ants with food and of course the protection. The same thing over here, this is also a jumping spider which resembles like an ant over there, and they take the shelter and move within the ants and get lost in them and try to avoid predators. Now coming to structural adaptations. The structural adaptations over here, we were talking about all this in the structural adaptation itself. Now the third one over here is a bent hind legs. Now you can see in the animals have this bent hind legs over there. Now this bent hind legs will make them allow them to run fast, to escape, or the predators to run fast to catch the prey. So both, it can be protection and locomotion. The bent hind legs make the animals to run fast from the predators, and the predators will be running faster to catch hold of the prey. Now in the structural adaptation, you can also talk about the teeth over there, the herbivore, omnivore and the carnivore teeth over there. The flat teeth for grinding for the plant eaters, you can see the flat teeth, this helps them to grind the teeth and eat. Whereas the omnivore, it has both the flat teeth and the sharp teeth over there, so that they can eat either the plant or the animals. And a carnivore having only the sharp teeth, which will help them to cut the meat and eat them. So this is one type of structural adaptation. When we are talking about the birds, you can see in the eagles, they have a sharp curved beak which helps them to tear and ripping the meat. In a duck, you can have the long flat beak which will help in gathering the small insects and plants. In the warblers and swallows, you can find the thin pointed beak to find out insects and eat them away. And in the herons and the kingfishers, you can see the long sharp beak which helps in fishing the fish. And in the parrots and quails, you have the short thick beak which helps in crack opening the seeds and eating them away. Under another type of example in structural adaptation, you have body structures. When you are talking about the body structure, if you can see in all the preys, the eyes are on the either side of the body, so that they can see the either side, the left and the right side of the surroundings, so that they can be aware of what is approaching them. Whereas when you are talking about the predators, you can see the eyes are always facing forward the prey. So that if you can see, this is the wild cat over there on owl, they have a direct eyes which can eye the predators so that they can catch them. Now coming to behavioral adaptations. So that was about structural adaptations. Now we are talking about behavioral adaptations, where the change in the behavior of an organisms to survive better in an environment. The behavioral adaptations are not easy to identify and many a times require careful field and laboratory studies. The examples over here are hibernation, warning calls, hunting in packs, migration birds, and so on and so forth. When talking about migration, you can find seasonal or periodic movements of animals in response to changes in the climate or food availability or to ensure protections. So you might have seen some birds, they keep flying from one place to another place during winter, so that they can go in search of food. There are some about 4,000 species of birds which are regular migrators in pursuit of either food or nesting location. Now, if you can see the salmons, they also move almost thousands of miles in the ocean back and forth, so in search of food and also during reproductions over there. So that is migration over there. You are talking about hibernation. During winters, you find some of the animals go for winter sleep, wherein that is a technique where the animal becomes inactive and all the body processes slow down. The example over here are the bears, chipmunks, squirrels, bat, and of course some toads over there. Another type is living in groups. So they want to live in groups so that more eyes are there to watch on the prey or a predator and for protection over this. So you can see over here the fishes move in batches over there so that they can be protected from the predators. Of course, the zebras are also moving in packs so that they can be safe, and also the walruses over here to be safe from the predators. Now, another interesting behavioral adaptation over here is the tool use. That is, a tool use is where the animals try to use any tool so that they can use them for their habitat or eating food. Now, if you can see over here, the chimpanzee over here is trying to poke a stick inside the hole wherein it is able to catch hold of the ants and eat them. Now, if it wants to insert its hand inside this hole, it cannot hold the ants. So, they try to poke in a stick inside and pull the insects out. This is an otter, very interesting otter over there. What it does, it takes a stone on its stomach over there. They swim upside on their back so that the stomach is facing up. They face a stone on place of stone on the stomach, and they try to break open the shells and the union pilar so that they can eat insects from inside them. Of course, the finch over here again you can see they are poking the insect in the stick inside the bark so that they can catch hold of the insects. The beavers, they build the dams by cutting down the trees and packing them with the mud. Another one is very interesting, again, is a playing dead one. That is, they pretend as though they are being dead over there. That is, when any predator comes to catch hold of them, the prey, what it does, now this is a possum which plays dead over there, and no matter how much of prodding them, they will not get up. And they also have one more technique of producing some smell chemicals which resembles like that of a dead animal. And of course, the eastern hog-nosed snake playing dead over here upside down, this is one way of protecting themselves. Physiological adaptations. Now, under physiological adaptations, we will be talking about how the metabolic and physiological adjustments in response to an environmental stimuli results in improved ability to cope with a changing environment. So, here you can see the production of venom is a physiological adaptation, that is, the snakes, bees and spiders, they produce venom, and concentrated urine that is produced by the fox, and of course, the offensive odor production by the skunk is a physiological adaptation. Co-adaptation is where you can find a hummingbird having a long beak over there. They are able to take the nectar from a longer flowers over there, and thereby they are also taking the pollen grains and spreading it around. So, that is a co-adaptation. When we are talking about aquatic adaptations, these are found in those plants and animals that live in water habitats, freshwater, brackish water and sea water. Now, these are of two types over there, where you can find that they are primary aquatic animals and secondary aquatic animals. In the primary aquatic animals, the ancestors have always been living in the water. So, that is the primary aquatic animals, and in the secondary aquatic animals, these are the animals whose ancestors were lung breathing land animals, migrated to the water for some reason and ultimately got adapted to the life of aquatic, and some of them live partially while others live totally in the water. Amphibians are transitional forms between primary and secondary aquatic animals. Adaptive features of the aquatic animals over here, you can see the body contour over here. Now, the body contour is completely streamlined, which is a primary requisite for an animal's life, wherein the head, body and tail are laterally compressed. There is a mucus secretions from the epidermis, which is helping them in protection from any infections to the skin. And the fins also, there are two types of fins, they are paired and unpaired fins. The caudal fin over here plays a vital role in forward propulsion of the animal, and of course, the dorsal and the pelvic fins are able to help them in swimming, and of course, the pectoral fin also acts as brake. The modifications for the floating is of course the air bladder that is present inside the fish, which helps them to have a buoyancy in the water, and they also have a straight line, the lateral line, which helps them in the lateral line helps as a rheoreceptors, which helps in testing the pressure of the water inside the inside this aquatic condition. Now, when you are talking about terrestrial adaptation, you have the fossorial adaptations. These are the ones that helps in burrowing inside the land or into the soil. Here the body is cylindrical, fusiform, and also the example over here is the earthworm, moles and badgers over here. So, if you can see over here, the limbs are short and strong, the paws are broad and stout with long claws in them, which helps them in digging inside the soil. You also have the Grylotalpa, a mole cricket, which where the forelimbs are modified for digging inside. And of course, the earthworm over here, you have an earthworm which is cylindrical, which helps in easily burrowing inside the soil. cursorial adaptations over here, you find the legs over here, how they are being modified so that they are able to run very fast. The platygrade, the digitigrade and the unguligrade over here. The humans and the bear walk on the platygrade, that the whole foot is pressed in onto the ground so that they are able to walk. The dogs, cats and the rodent are digitigrade, where they use only the digits for walking and running, whereas the horses, deers and sheep only uses the hoofs over there so that they are able to run fast. Of course, even the humerus, the ulna and the radius over here, and also the fibula, tibia, which are also along over there, which helps them to run very fast. Under arboreal adaptations, you find these are scantorial adaptations, where they are having the ability to climb and move forward. You can find how the legs and the hands have those round shapes so that they are able to hold on to it, even the koala over there, and of course even the chameleon over there. You can also find how the squirrels are able to have move from one place to another with the long digits over there. The frogs having those pads and also the webbed legs over there, and the lizards over here having the vertical the double row of lamellae on the ventral side of the digits, which are able to help them to move from one place to another place. And the desert adaptations over here, the deserts over here, you can find the moloch, the horned toad and the kangaroo rat over here, which are able to adapt itself in the deserts. And of course, the camels over there, wherein you can see how the hump over there, the hump stores the fat over there. The water is stored in the blood and the tissue over there, which they are able to survive in the desert conditions. And this is what we are talking about in the adaptations of the animals in different ecological conditions. Thank you.